You are 23 years old, and the knock comes at 3 a.m. Not for what you did, but for what your grandfather did. 3 men in dark coats stand in the doorway of your apartment in a provincial town north of Pyongyang. They do not show you a warrant. There is no warrant. One of them says your name, and the word he uses next is not arrest, but relocation, as if you were being moved to a better job. Your mother is pulling a coat over her nightclothes with hands that will not work properly. Your younger sister is still asleep. She will not be asleep in 4 minutes. You ask what you did. Nobody answers. You are put in the back of a covered truck with your family, and somewhere in the dark, someone you cannot see says the word that explains everything, songbun. It is the classification system that sorts every North Korean into a hereditary caste: loyal core, wavering, hostile, based on what their ancestors did before and during the Korean War. Your grandfather had a brother who went south in 1951. You have never met him. You have never seen his face in a photograph because your family burned every photograph decades ago. It did not help. The file remembers what the album forgot. The doctrine has a name, and it is not a secret. It is attributed to Kim Il-sung in 1972. Enemies of class, whoever they are, must be eliminated through 3 generations. You are the 3rd generation. That is the entire case against you. There is no trial. There is no lawyer, no charge sheet, no sentence with a number of years at the end of it, because a sentence with a number implies a day when it ends. You are not being punished for a crime. You are being subtracted from the country. The truck drives most of a day. When it stops, you are in a valley, and the first thing you understand about the valley is that it was chosen. Mountains on every side, a single road in. Electrified fence strung along the lower slopes, and above the fence, guard towers spaced so that a man in one can see the man in the next. This is Kwan-li-so, a political penal labor colony. The satellites that photograph these valleys from orbit have measured some of them at hundreds of square kilometers. Camp 16 near Hwasong, Camp 25 near Chongjin, Camp 14 at Kaishan, where the fence is not decoration. Survivors describe it as carrying enough current to kill on contact and describe bodies left hanging on it as a teaching aid. For decades, the government said none of this existed. In 2014, a United Nations Commission of Inquiry spent nearly a year taking testimony from more than 80 witnesses in public hearings and hundreds more in private, and concluded that the crimes committed in these camps had no parallel in the contemporary world. It estimated the camp population at somewhere between 80 and 120,000 people. It found that hundreds of thousands had died in them over half a century. You do not know any of this on the day you arrive. You are simply standing in a valley, being counted. The first lesson is the rules, and there are 10 of them. You are made to memorize them. Do not escape. Do not gather in groups of more than 2. Do not steal. Obey the guards absolutely. Report anyone who behaves suspiciously. Watch your fellow prisoners and report on them. Complete your assigned work quota. Do not speak to anyone of the opposite sex without permission. Confess your wrongs sincerely. And beneath each rule, the same closing clause, repeated until it is furniture in your head, violators will be shot immediately. Read that list again and notice what it actually does. 4 of the 10 rules are about labor and obedience. 2 of them are about turning you into an instrument of surveillance against the person sleeping 18 inches away from you. The camp does not have enough guards to watch everyone. It does not need them. It has you. You are assigned to a work unit and given a quota. The quota is the architecture of the whole place. In the coal mines, you are sent underground into shafts propped with timber that nobody inspects. In air, nobody measures. In the fields, you plant and weed and harvest by hand from before dawn until after dark. In the winter, you are sent to fell trees on slopes where a wet log slides and takes a man's leg with it. There is no safety equipment. There is no shift limit. There is no age at which you stop, and no age at which you start. Children born inside the fence are put to work at levels calibrated to their size. Here is the part that takes you weeks to understand. Meeting the quota does not earn you a reward. Failing to meet it is what triggers the punishment. Your ration is cut. Your ration was already below what a body needs to do the work. So a bad day in the mine produces a hungrier week, and a hungrier week produces worse days, and the spiral only turns one direction. The hunger is not a supply problem, it is a mechanism. It is the thing that keeps you too weak to organize, too tired to think, and too focused on the next mouthful to notice you are being worked to death on a schedule. You eat corn, boiled corn, corn gruel, corn husks, salt if you are lucky, cabbage in season. Survivors put the daily ration at a few hundred grams of grain, the kind of number that keeps a body alive for a while and never lets it be strong. So you learn the second economy, and nobody teaches it to you. You learn which insects can be swallowed. You learn that a rat is a good day and that you eat it whole because the bones are calcium, and you cannot afford to be squeamish about calcium. You learn to pick undigested corn kernels out of animal droppings, wash them, and eat them again. You learn which weeds along the fence line will not make you sick, and you learn that other prisoners already know, which means you have to get there first. And you learn what happens if you are caught. Dong-hyuk, born inside Camp 14 in 1982, one of the only people known to have been born in a total control zone and escaped from it, described watching his own mother and brother executed when he was 13 after their plan to flee was reported. He was in the front row. He had eaten before he came, because he had been fed for once. He said for years afterward that he felt they deserved it. That is not a man being callous. That is a man showing you exactly what the camp was built to manufacture. He also described his own arithmetic in that moment, and it is the ugliest true thing in this story. The report that killed them came from him. He was 9 years old and hungry, and he told a teacher what he had overheard, and he expected extra food for it. The camp had spent his entire childhood teaching him that loyalty to the guards outranked loyalty to blood. He learned it. Then he spent the rest of his life carrying what he learned. So the unwritten rules, the ones that are not on the wall, arrive one by one, and each one costs something. Be invisible. The prisoners who are noticed are the ones who are broken. Do not be the fastest worker because the quota will rise. Do not be the slowest because the slowest is an example. Find the exact middle of the group and stay there. Trust nothing you say out loud, not to your bunkmate, not to your work partner, not to the person who saved your life last month. Informing is not treachery in here, it is currency, and it is the only currency a starving person can print. If you assume every conversation is being reported, you will be right often enough to survive. Never look a guard in the face. Eye contact is read as assessment, and assessment is read as insolence. You learn to lower your head at the sound of boots on gravel before you have decided to do it. Take the beating without covering up. Raising your arms is resistance. Resistance extends the beating, and the hardest one, the one nobody says aloud, give up on rescue. Not from outside the fence, from inside your own head. The prisoners who die first are not always the weakest. They are frequently the ones who set a date. The ones who tell themselves that when the appeal goes through, when the letter arrives, when someone realizes the mistake, they will be released. There is no mistake to realize. There is no appeal because there was no charge. Hope with a date on it is a countdown clock, and when it hits 0, something in a person stops. Now the question that lives at the center of the valley, the one you turn over in the dark while your body is trying to digest something that is not food. How does a place like this stay hidden for 50 years? Part of the answer is geometry. Remote valleys, closed borders, a state that controls every camera in the country. But the larger part of the answer is you. The camp's most efficient tool is not the fence or the tower. It is the prisoner who reports on his neighbor for a fistful of corn. A place where everyone is watching. Everyone needs almost nothing from the outside world to keep its secrets, because there is no one inside it left to tell. Then there is the second kind of hidden. The prisoners in the revolutionizing zones, the sections from which release is theoretically possible, are made to sign a statement before they walk out. It certifies that they were never there. Say otherwise, and you go back, and this time you bring your family. So a released prisoner returns to a town where his neighbors know exactly where he has been, and where nobody will say the name of the place, and where his songbun now marks him for life. He is out of the fence and still inside the system. That is not an oversight in the design. That is the design. There are two ways out, and you have already been told the first one. There is the gate for the small number of people whose sentence has a shape, an official who fell out of favor, a family sent for a fixed term of re-education. You are not one of them. Your file does not have a term in it. You are a total control zone prisoner. The classification means what it says. And there is the fence. Escape from a mountain valley with no food in your body, across a country where every citizen must be accounted for at all times, to a border river guarded on both sides, into a nation that will repatriate you if you are caught. And repatriation means the camp again for you and for anyone related to you. The handful of confirmed escapes from a total control zone can be counted on one hand. Shin Dong-hyuk got out in January 2005 at 23 over the electrified fence, and the way he got out is the sentence that ends this story. He went through with another prisoner, an older man who had lived outside the country and had spent months describing to Shin what food tasted like elsewhere. That man reached the fence first. He was killed on the wires. And his body, lying across the current, is what let Shin climb over him and live. Shin's legs were burned from the wire for the rest of his life. Think about what he escaped toward. He had no idea what a country was. He had never heard of the internet or of Kim Jong-il's actual role, or the idea that a person could refuse an instruction and not die. He had been born a prisoner, and his crime was his grandfather's. He had never in his life met a person who was free. You are still in the valley. Most people who go in do not have his ending. They have the ordinary one, in a shaft or a field or on a slope in winter, and their names do not leave with anyone. Around 2012, and again after 2014, satellite analysts watching Camp 22 near Hungrier saw its buildings emptied and its perimeter altered, and to this day nobody can say with certainty where its people went. That is the shape of the record, pictures from orbit, testimony from the few who crossed a river, and a government that says the whole thing is fiction. So here is what you are actually left holding. Not a story about a distant country with a strange flag. A story about a machine that works because it makes the prisoners guard each other, and about the fact that it was never the wire that held you. It was the arithmetic the wire taught you, that reporting your bunkmate buys a meal, that hope on a schedule kills faster than hunger, that the safest place in any group is the exact middle. 3 generations. That is the reach of the sentence you never received for the act you never committed by the man you never met. And if you had been born inside that fence, fed on that arithmetic from the day you could speak, with no photograph and no outside and no word for freedom, how certain are you, honestly, that you would have been the one who refused?